Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Leite, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the ascension and oneness teachings, law of attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are. Hi everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. Today I'm joined by friend Wendy Pierce, who is a fellow channel. And very interestingly and very exciting, I'm very looking forward to talking about this in the session, is that she's also an animal communicator. She can actually channel animals. So Wendy, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to see you, be here, finally be in connection. I love it.
Yes.
We've known each other now, 3 years? But never really had any one-on-one. You've done a couple of sessions for me, but nothing really this intimate. So this is exciting.
It is. It's very exciting. And, I've known some of Wendy's journey over the years, but for a lot of people, but they may not know about Wendy's story. So Wendy, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Okay, well, I feel like I've been on my spiritual journey my whole life, kind of going in and out of it. I have 3 sons, and so before I had them, I was really into science of mind and Course of Miracles and doing things like that. And then I had kids, and so my whole focus was on the kids. And when they all moved on and went to college like they were supposed to do, I found myself very empty, like no longer really realizing what my purpose was. I realized now that I was tying all of my purpose to them, and that gave me the confidence to springboard and do everything else that I was doing. Several businesses, interior design, real estate, and all of that. So through that, I found I got very depressed and I got very ill, and the doctors could never really figure out what was wrong with me. It was Lyme disease, it was fibromyalgia, it was depression, but there was never like any and they couldn't find like anything that would. I tried every kind of remedy that I could think of and spent thousands of dollars, and nothing ever worked. And I was getting really discouraged. And then I found Abraham Hicks through a friend, and I started listening to Abraham, and that, I really liked that, and that started to resonate. But then it wasn't like making any sense to me. And so my husband's good friend is Steve, who was one of the original people in the Friends of Joshua group, who is channeled by Gary Temple Bodley. And he said, have you heard of Joshua? And I said, no. And so I started listening to Joshua, and I was like, oh, this resonates. This is a how to, work the law of attraction, live this new approach to life that I was desperately seeking at the time, and didn't really realize that I was, but I was. And so I got really involved with them, and they I went through the one-on-one program and the boot camp and everything, and they awakened in me some things that I'd kind of forgotten about, honestly. And that was the connection with animals. From a very young age, I remember just talking and talking and talking with my dog. And my parents would always say, oh no, you're not talking, it's your imagination, you're making it up. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. But then I'd go right back and talk to my dog, and the punishment for if I got in trouble was to go to my room. And for me it was like, yes, because we could go in my room and talk, and we'd have these great conversations. And so that, as I got older, it kind of grew out of that. But one thing that really stuck in my mind was when my dad and I were fishing one time. We were up in the mountains and we were fishing, and a deer came down to the edge of the creek. And Kimberly, I tell you, it was clear as day. We had this full-on conversation, and I'm talking to her. I'm like, yes, well, we're on vacation here, and I really appreciate being here. And my dad's looking at me like, is my daughter crazy? He's like, oh,
how old were you?
I was about 9.
Wow.
I think I was about 9, if I can, put everything back together. And he just looked at me like, you can't talk to the deer. And I'm like, yes, you can't hear her. I mean, it was like, I was shocked and he was shocked that he couldn't hear me. And I don't know, at that point when he just had no, like, oh no, you can't do that, I started shutting it down. I just, I still talk with my dog, but I started shutting it down. And then when I first got married, I finally got a horse. I'd always wanted a horse and finally got this horse, and I loved that connection with the horse. And so Joshua, of course, would always say to me, what did you do when you were little? What's your passion? Because I would always say, I don't know what my passion is. I don't have a passion. And they'd say, what did you do when you were little? And I said, well, I talked to the dog, and then I got a horse. When I got my horse, I just felt that connection, like we were one. And so they said, go find a horse. And I said, what do you mean? Go find a horse and just pet it. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. But I'm like, I'll do it, okay, I'm going to try. So I went to the local stables down here and I found some horses. I actually got to ride some horses. And through that process, I realized that what I was missing was that connection, and the connection of connecting with the animals. And so from there, they just encouraged me, to give it a try. Talk, ask the question and see what you get. And so I did, and fortunately a lot of the people in the Joshua group were very forthcoming with their questions, and it really helped me build my confidence in it. And probably one of the best ones that always just sticks out in my mind is Mark had a brand new bulldog puppy. And she kept getting eye infections, and he's like tried everything, went to the doctor, oh, she's going to need surgery if it doesn't get better, la, la, la. And he's like, can you talk to her and see what's going on? And I did, and it was amazing because they travel a lot, and she was seeing, it was all from her eyes, she was what she didn't want to see, like they would leave and leave her, and maybe they travel one at a time or both together, and she didn't like that. She didn't understand what was happening. Why do they go away? And then, so I kind of just had a little conversation with her and explained it all, and had, told them what was going on. And lo and behold, her eye issues went away. It was like, wow, okay, okay, I'm not just making this up. And so from there, I was been able to, talk with lots of different animals, and the stuff they tell me, I just, the connection I feel when I'm connected to them it's unconditional, pure love and joy.
Oh, wow. So, what a gift that is, to connect in that way. Oh my goodness. What is, what is their general perspective? Like, I'm sure there's a lot of viewers that are very curious about, like, what do animals think, or how do they perceive us as humans or the world? Like, can you give any insights into that? Because I'm sure
yes, every animal I've ever spoken with is love. It's just pure love. Even the ones that have been abused, they are here for us. They truly are. They're here for us to help us along our paths, help us along our journeys, show us unconditional love. Be, whatever it is we need to explore, they can help us explore, even if sometimes, they're not treated really nice. That's part of they're helping humanity grow. And that is just, I've never had any animal be mean or nasty or just, I'm not going to talk to you. Now, they will withhold information if they feel like they're betraying their owner, like there's a trust level, like if you say, oh, that's family business, we don't talk about that outside of the home, kind of thing. They won't always tell me that. And it's interesting because I had one cat one time that did that, and I was like, what's going on? So I went back to the owner. I said, something's going on. He's not sharing it with me, but he's upset about something, like he's feeling like he might be abandoned, or like you're going to leave him. And the guy was like, we've been talking about moving. It was like, oh, okay, well, that would make sense. He's thinking he's not going to get to go. And, once they just kind of talked to him and said, hey, you're going with us. If we go, you go too. And all his behavioral issues went away. So, I mean, it blows my mind.
Oh, that's amazing. And like, I currently don't have any pets myself, but when I was younger, well, what about over more than 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, in my early 20s, I was going through a really difficult situation, and I had a dog, Rockies, and it was Rocky, and I always felt connected. I mean, I couldn't obviously channel and communicate the way you can, but I knew that he was my little kind of protector, And I remember this one time, and it really stayed with me. I was really upset, and my dog went on the balcony all the way to the other side of the balcony, came in my bedroom and just hopped up on the bed. I'm like, oh, and just looked at me like, it's like he knew I was upset and sad, and I was like, wow, it's like he knew. And I'm like,
yes.
And it's been little scenarios. This was obviously quite a while ago. It's the last time I had a pet, but I remember, you know, it was like it seemed like my little bodyguard and just my little protector, and was always just comforting when I was sad. You know, I went through certain situations, and he was always there, like the way he would look at me, and just, it's like he could look into your soul.
Yes.
It's like I had this kind of knowing at the time. I mean, back then I had abilities, certain psychic abilities, but I wouldn't call myself a channel back then. Like I could see things, but I couldn't channel in the way that I can now. And it's like I had this knowing that he was there for me, like he was my little guide in animal form, you know, like helped me in my journey. So that was very, very comforting. Of course, when he transitioned, well, he had to be put down. That was a very, obviously, with a lot of cases, I'm sure it's like losing a family member. It's very devastating. Yes. And with that, Wendy, how has it been? Have you worked with animals that have transitioned and things? Have you worked or helped families grieve that process?
Yes, very much so. And that's actually one of my favorite things to do, because people don't realize that animals are always with you. You know, as we all know, time is not linear. They can be wherever they want to be, whenever they want to be, and they're much better at it than we are. So even if you have a dog that's alive, you can still, you know, you call on him, he can be with you in that moment, regardless of where you are at. But what's so comforting is when I do have the opportunity to talk with an animal that's passed, and say, for instance, like you had to put him down, they're so like okay with it. They don't care. You know, they know they can come and go. And when their bodies are old, they don't like their old bodies. They don't like not being able to run and chase or play. And they understand that much better than we understand it. And they come to us. Oftentimes people are together with their animals many times over lifetimes, over this lifetime, in different forms. You know, the animal will come to them, even though they think they chose the animal. It's all been predetermined that the animal's coming at this time to help them through whatever they're going through. And so it's just it's fascinating, and it ties in with all of the stuff that you channel as well, that we all are one. We all, this is our reality. We create it, and it's all for us. So, you know, the animals, even the wild animals, are for us. We don't even stop to think about that half the time, but they are, and they're here for a purpose, and their purpose is to help us grow and expand and ascend.
Oh, it's amazing. And like with the wild animals, I'm very fortunate that where I live, there is a lot of, you know, wild birds, I guess. And often the time in my balcony here, because I'm right near the beach, we have cockatoos, a lot of cockatoos. And I don't know if they're wild over in America or in other countries, but in Australia, there's a lot in the wild. They're quite, I don't know whether you're watching or listening to this, they're quite like large birds like this, why they've got like this yellow kind of feather there, and they often visit us here on the balcony, and I have a little chat. Of course I don't get the communication back sometimes I've had a little, like, it's like I talk to them, and it's like they hear me and they understand me, and we have this kind of deep connection, like a oneness connection. So it's like they're kind of like, they're our friends. Like they come visit, and they kind of look, and they look inside. I'm like, I have a little chat. Like I'm like, oh, hi, beautiful. Like I guess I talk to them like I would like a little baby or a dog or something, you know.
Sure.
I chat. I'm like, oh, how you going? Go look at you. You're beautiful. You know, I have a little chat like this. They're really like, and they're really like, you know, here, and they really connect, and I've been able to, like, they feed from my hand sometimes. And we also have rainbow lorikeets. I don't know if you have those in America or not. They're like these little birds.
Yeah, they're just in cages.
And they're all different colors, and sometimes they come as well. And actually, it's very interesting. We have this other bird called, I believe it's called an Asian minor. It's like a little brown bird. You probably don't have this in the States. And over the period of 2 weeks, one of these birds, I don't know if it's the same bird or it could have been like just in the same like type of bird, actually came into our house, which is very interesting. And I know there's no coincidences there. So the first time I was kind of like upstairs, I hear this, I'm like, what's going on? And like usually I sometimes leave the door open, only like a little bit like this, not even that much. and what's that? And I come in and there was like a bowl with like bread. It was in a packet though. And this little bird was just sitting on top. I'm like, oh, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it was kind of a weird moment. I was like, wow, I felt like it was there for a reason or trying to tell me something. I'm not sure, but it was kind of like, it was kind of unusual. Like it usually doesn't happen. The birds come inside. I'm like, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And as soon as I saw, I'm like, oh, hello. Like I didn't want to scare. I was like, oh, you know. And as soon as it saw me, kind of just calmly walked out the door and gone. So it wasn't like trapped or anything. It just went back the way it came, a little opening like this. And then it happened a couple times. Like, and I'm like, this is interesting. It's the same kind of a bird. And again, it happened like just, I think it was just last week, and literally the door was open like this much. Like, I don't know how even a bird got inside. And then I was like, what's that noise? And the bowl was like completely empty. So I don't know if it's attracted to the bowl or whatever, but, and I'm like, I hear something. And then literally the bird was sitting in the empty bowl. And as soon as it saw me, again, it just went out the door. I'm like, that is very interesting. So I've had a lot of interesting encounters with the wildlife here. And you know, for me personally, I love it. It feels like my friends are coming to visit. Yeah. You know, I guess I don't, for me, I don't really need a pet because at the moment they just come visit, you know.
That's perfect. Yeah. And I've learned that a lot of flying animals, insects, bees, birds will allow their selves to be inhabited by a spirit, by a soul that is close to you. So the bird is probably somebody from your past checking on you and just checking in. And to me that, oh my gosh, it just warms my heart whenever I hear that, because it's like somebody is trying. So you might ask next time, you know, who are you, and see if you get anything, because that bees and anything that flies that, you know, kind of comes and goes around seems to be the most common way for them to do that. But they allow the spirit to come in their body to kind of see you, you know, versus just feeling your vibration. They can kind of see you really.
Oh, so they kind of like visit via the animal.
Yeah.
I might have to do that because this type of bird that's been coming in, I've wanted to talk to, but as soon as they, oh, hello, it kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't really freak out completely, but it just leaves the house in like 2 seconds. So it was just to get my attention. But the cockatoos, they really like engage with you. You know, you just chat to them and they really like this. Sometimes we're sitting there and they're really like on the balcony there, and they're just really like looking in like,
I would love that.
and you know what? They're so cheeky. These birds are so cheeky. If you've got stuff lying around, they sometimes pick it up to move it. And I've had incidences where they've actually taken things off and dropped it off the balcony.
Oh,
but I love them. They're cheeky. They're so cheeky, but I love them. They're like these little cheeky little kids, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love them. They're cute. But yeah.
So that's
playful. Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
They can sense your vibration too. They can sense that your vibration is calm and understanding. And so they probably feel a lot more comfortable on your balcony than they do maybe your neighbor or something whose vibration might be all over the place. They can sense that. So that's, you know, why they're hanging out with you.
That's amazing. And I always have like a connection when I do kind of connect with the birds in this way, but there was one particular incident, I think it was last year, and I really felt true oneness with this bird, and I had never felt that before with an animal. Like I had felt connections, but not like this oneness. I was looking at this cockatoo, and it's like we were kind of communicating through the eyes almost, but there's no words, it was just connection. And I felt this complete oneness, and I felt instantly connected to the bird and all life, you know. It was amazing. And there was another situation, again, I don't know, was this year or last year? Because the beings of the light have been showing me and telling me that, you know, obviously we're all connected to all the animals, to all that is, to Gaia. And they, you know, a lot of the teachings that come through me through beings of light always talk about connecting with Gaia and all these elements. And I say that there's a pulse. It's kind of like, I guess it's a heartbeat. It's a pulse of life that connects all life, like all animals, all things, and all that is. And you can connect to that pulse. And there was a seagull, because I live on the beach, and I don't know how it happened. I think it was just them showing me that this pulse exists. And I sort of connected to the bird, and I kind of could feel this. It was kind of like an energetic heartbeat. And all of a sudden I was kind of like tapped into this
pulse, and it was like all instantly in a second I felt like I could feel like this pulse going through all humans, all nature, all like, it was an amazing experience. It was very brief, but it was like, I think it was there just to show me that this does exist. And you know, as we go through this awakening journey that we are going through as a collective, I believe that we are going to be able to experience more situations like this overtly, because, you know, we are already one, obviously, but because we're still attached to duality consciousness, we see ourselves as separate from one another in human form, separate from our animals, separate from Gaia elements like the ocean, the air, the wind. We see that as just separate to us. And I know the teachings that come through me, and I know a lot of other channels talk about it too, is that it actually helps us connect to who we are by connecting through these elements. So I know, like, when I've connected to the birds, I've felt more connected to oneness. I've actually, interesting, I know it's not animals, but I've also communicated with a tree.
Oh, yeah.
And that took me, you know, like there's a beautiful tree near me, and I felt so connected to this particular tree, and I actually did have a kind of a conversation with it. I'm like, wow. And it wasn't hard at all. It was just like natural. So I've had enough evidence in my own physical experience that, you know, we can communicate in so many ways, not just in the connection, but, you know, those of us who are sensitive enough, we can actually have a dialogue. And like, I guess with animal communication, I guess it's similar to just channeling in general, isn't it? That
exactly.
we all have, you know, like, I know, like, general channeling, for instance, we all have capabilities of it. So if we can channel, you know, other higher beings, we can channel, you know, people that's transitioned. Like, I had Jenny on the other week, and she's a medium, and she talks as well how we can communicate with people of transition, and like how you're saying with animals as well. You can everyone has this ability. So it just really highlights, doesn't it, that how we are really connected in so many different ways.
Yeah, very much so. And it's funny, you were talking about the pulse. I actually just posted something on my Facebook page. A photographer captured a frog sitting on a rock in a stream, and you can see the waves of his vibration just pulsating out. And I thought, that's just so it. We were so busy, and maybe that's what part of this time is right now. We're so busy, we're able to slow down and maybe feel that a little bit. I get it from trees a lot. I have one favorite tree that I just love. She's beautiful. And I get that feeling. If I'm stressed or having, you know, a lot going on, I can just go sit by her and be calmed.
Yeah. And that's something as well, is that, you know, there are many different ways we can meditate and connect. Yes. And I know that a lot of people may have certain resistances around, you know, normal, I guess what we call normal meditation, like, you know, sitting there in silence. But there are so many different ways of meditation apart from the traditional ways. And a very powerful way, even for me, is that I connect to nature. And it's so powerful, even for me. And like, there's always nature around you. Like, you may not live near the beach or the mountains or forest, but like, for instance, one of the recent challenges I did, even with Metatron, he was saying that, you know, you can just connect to the air. Even like at this moment, how a lot of countries are in lockdown, you can still connect to nature. Even if you don't have a backyard, even if you're in a country where you can't actually go for a walk, you can open a window, go on a balcony if you have it. And just the air, people don't like kind of understand that, you know, nature is all around us. We breathe air, you know, the winds, the air. If you can just focus that on like how it feels on your skin, how it touches your skin, that's you connecting with Gaia. So it doesn't have to be a tree or the ocean if that's not in your vicinity. There's always ways to connect. You may not be close to wildlife like where I am, but there's always ways to connect.
Right. And I love that you say that, because that's one of my favorite things is to sit outside or sit in front of a window and feel the breeze. It's almost like, without sounding way out there, it's intelligent. The breeze is intelligent. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much information in what's coming. And I love to watch the clouds move, because that reminds me that there's always energy around us. There's never not energy. You know, it's always around us. We can always tap into it regardless of where we're at.
It is. And I often talk to Gaia. And one of the ways I often talk to Gaia is when I'm in the ocean or on the beach.
Yeah. Me too.
I really connect that way when I'm in, like, for instance, even when was it, last the worldwide meditation, because of the way Australia is running their, I guess, restrictions, we're still allowed to go for a swim in certain parts. So I went for actually my meditation while floating in the water, and that allowed me to connect even more. And I often communicate to the oceans, have a chat to Gaia, and I'm like, what I like to do, especially in the ocean, is I like just to float, and my ears are under the water, like I can really listen.
Yes.
You know, and I'm just like, oh, it's just the energy I feel. The sun, the sand, like I know I'm very blessed to live where I'm living because I have such richness of Gaia here, but you can do it anywhere. You can do it anywhere, like just like you said, the air.
Yep.
You can connect and communicate because all Gaia is intelligent, and actually we're expressed in human form, but we are, as you know, source manifested, but we are also Gaia manifested. We are part of Gaia, the earth, because we're in physical form. We were born through Gaia, and she actually helps us to connect to who you are. And then, like, what's going on right now, it's actually allowing us to connect more to ourselves. And, you know, she's always there to assist us. And like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, native traditions, they've known of this wisdom of Gaia. But in Western society, a lot of us have ignored that wisdom, that knowledge of the connection.
And you were talking about the water. I too loved. I live by the beach. Our waters are not as warm as your waters, but I do, when I can, get in the water. But, you know, even a shower, a bath, anything, the water, just, you know, that's nature too. And people just don't always think about that. But a shower or a bath or just the wind, you can connect and feel that same calming, grounding. And that's one thing I've noticed since I've started really communicating with the dogs and stuff. We go to a dog park. It's a huge park, like in Laguna Canyon, which Laguna Canyon is a very powerful vortex and lots of energy. And then there's this beautiful dog park. It's my happy place. And dogs will come up to me and turn their butts around and back into me. And I was like, what is going on, right? Well, they want me to ground them. I finally realized they're coming to me to ground them. And I take my hands down their spine and down their legs, and I ground them. And they turn around and they look at me like, okay, thanks. And they run away. It's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Wow, what experience.
Yeah, but I love it. I love it. And people are like, oh my gosh, my dog always recognizes you. How does he know that's you? Like, they'll come from across the park, and it's a big park, like just a dead run across the park and turn around. I'm like, oh, okay, you need to be grounded.
And obviously, because, you know, they obviously know that you can communicate with them and you're sensitive. And I feel like for me, even though I can't kind of communicate to them the way you can, I feel like if they know you're sensitive, you're more able to pick up on them, and they are more able to pick up on you in that non-physical way.
Yes.
So it's just amazing how, you know, I mean, being expressed in human form, we tend to see ourselves as limited, right? But we are so connected, and we truly are not alone. You know, whether it is, you know, our non-physical guides, but we also have physical guides that sometimes we disregard that, don't we? Because we're like, oh, that's just an animal, or because they're not like an angel, they're not really there to really help me. You know, there's a lot of, I guess, belief systems around what is assistance from beyond.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Like you said, they come through animals, they come through other people, they come through all aspects of our world. So
the wind, back to the wind, it can come through the wind.
It is truly, like, I've had experiences, you know, walking in the middle of the CBD in Sydney, and I've been able to be in bliss, just connecting to the wind on my skin, and I feel so connected, and I'm surrounded by skyscrapers, and I just feel the connection. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can connect to Gaia in many different ways. It's just expanding your awareness to know that, like you said, everything is intelligent.
And the animals are drawn to you because they're reading your vibration. And so if, you know, other folks are out and about and the animals are drawn to them, they're picking up on their vibration. And if you're you're highly sensitive and your vibration is high, they're going to recognize that, and they're going to think, oh, there's a safe, you know, I can communicate with this one because she's got her vibration is so high. So it's just, there's so much going on that it blows my mind, because there's so much going on that we're mostly unaware of.
I know, and it shows as well that we all have this capability.
Yes.
And a lot of the time our soul purpose is linked to our childhood, like you said, with your experience, you know, I know, like from following you throughout the years as well, you know, you had some doubt about your life purpose, you know, and many of us do, you know, it's very common for us to not know our soul purpose, or question it or doubt it, because you think, who am I to be this? Who am I to be special? It's a human condition, right? Exactly. And I just love how you've come full circle, because you forgot that you were a child who could have this ability. But that's often the case, isn't it? That when you were young, we're conditioned out of our abilities. I know, like, you know, for you could talk to animals, and that was your passion. You had that ability, but I guess you never linked that to your soul purpose, because you might have thought, oh, that's maybe not true, you know, it's make believe, or that's not something that's, I don't know, you might have had certain belief systems around that.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and for me the same, and I'm sure a lot of like light workers around the world is the same thing. I mean, when I was a teenager, that's when I started to see angels, but I didn't link that to like, oh, it's my soul. Well, at the time I didn't think, okay, it's going to be my full calling, you know. I experienced them, you know, I was a teenager, I put it all aside, as many of us do. You know, you have to live life, right? And that's actually helps us in our journey. And there's obviously different things that happened in my life that led me to become more aware that this is part of my calling. But even then I still was like, okay, well, I have these abilities, but even then I don't know if it's what I'm supposed to do. So there's always doubt, you know. So it takes it can take many years for you to find and to really believe and to have that knowing, you know, that concrete kind of knowing that this is what you are supposed to do. And like you said, it's human nature to doubt yourself. And like, you know, me and Wendy were talking off air before the podcast about how there's sometimes always doubt, you know, and a lot of patience is often required, because, you know, like sometimes we have these abilities and you want it to present itself in a certain way, but the universe has other plans, you know. It's teaching us all to have patience and to practice building up these abilities that we have within us. And we all have these abilities within us. And it just shows, like, for you, you've had these abilities when you were young, and now you can see that this is part of your purpose. You know, it might not be like purpose, or maybe there's other things as well, but it's obviously part of your purpose. Like, do you see that now, like how your evolution and how you've gone through this journey? And
absolutely,
that realization.
And the fact that what we do is not conventional is hard. Because, you know, it's like, oh, it's not a real job, or it's not, you know, it's just so it's structured. You go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, and just, oh, I'm going to be an animal communicator. It's like, oh, well, you're airy fairy or whatever. So it's hard to make that shift too, because, you know, I just had a normal life with raising kids and being, you know, working and all of that. And it's hard to make that shift. But once I did, and also when I realized I can communicate with the animals, I can channel too, because it's just connecting in to that energy. And now I've realized I can do that as well. And I've enjoyed doing that quite a bit with folks. But it's just because we're not taught, you know, at a young age. I think the tide is definitely shifting. I think a lot of the kids now are being more and more encouraged to follow their passions, follow their desires, versus, you know, get good grades or go to school or go to college. And I love that. I love that, especially right now with all the homeschooling that's going on and stuff, and kids are having more time to play and be who they truly are. I mean, that's fabulous.
And like, you hear so many stories of, you know, kids having imaginary friends, you know,
and they've been conditioned.
And they've been conditioned to, oh, it's make believe. So a lot of us has been conditioned to be like, oh, that's wrong, it's make believe, and that's why over time we've shut that off. But of course now it's time of great awakening, and all of those abilities in the last, you know, a few years or so, it's really being activated again within a lot of us. So it's just interesting, and it shows you that we all have these abilities. And from my understanding and what the beings of light have told me is that, you know, at a young age we're more sensitive, I guess, to the other side, because I guess they're fresh from the other side. So I guess when you're younger, you have less conditions. You know, you have less limiting beliefs because you've been in the physical world for less time, so you're more sensitive to a lot of things. So now it is, you know, it is a new world that we're living in. And I do really feel that people are going to embrace more of their abilities, and it's going to become more common knowledge, you know, that this stuff is not make-believe, and that it's real, that we all have this connection. And that it's my hope that children that have these abilities will no longer be told it's make-believe, and this will be, you know, encouraged, you know, and nurtured, because we all have these abilities. And you know, children are at a higher vibration than us, because when you're born onto the world, you align to the vibration of Gaia, and Gaia is always ascending, just as we are. We're always evolving. So with each generation, they align to that frequency of Gaia, and Gaia is always expanding. That's why we're always expanding, because we're aligned to her energies, the energies of all that is. And the universe always expands. It might feel like sometimes we're going backwards, but it's not. It's kind of an illusion. It's a kind of a contrast. We may feel like fear-based scenarios, or we may feel like we're going backwards, but it's just a contrast shift to allow us to expand even further. We're actually not going backwards. We can never go backwards. So the times we're living in now, it's amazing. Exciting. Like, I can see that, you know, that so many of us are being switched on, and I know the beings of light have told me numerous times that all the light workers, the people who are called to assist others in all the different ways that's unique to you, are now being activated. And this has been a process over a number of years. So all your life has been leading up to what's going on now, and it's a grand expansion event. So don't be surprised if you don't have certain abilities right now, they're going to be activated. Especially those of you watching or listening to this, because you're obviously here for a reason, not by accident. Right. The fact you are curious enough to watch this or listen to this means that this resonates with you. So there is something within you, there's a calling within you. So this is evidence to you that you are likely a light worker as well. It doesn't have to be a traditional light worker in the spiritual realms. It could be just a teacher at a school. You're assisting in empowering school kids. It doesn't have to be this grand mission. And I know, like, a lot of people maybe use that as evidence that they're not worthy, because I'm like, oh, but I feel called, but I'm not on this grand mission, and they kind of doubt that they're worthy of this. But a light worker is shine your light. That is it. Because if you empower yourself, you empower others around you, because you are connected to all that is, not just in your community, in your homes, but it's also the collective consciousness. And, you know, through my account, because obviously I'm a counselor as well, and there's actually scientific studies with the vagal nervous system, and this is like scientific proof that, and this is part of my training, especially with couple counseling, is that, you know, the space between you and another person, well, this is in the physical space, your energy, how you are, can affect and calm the person near you. So there's already evidence about that connection. I mean, they use this in relations to, you know, terminology in relations to science and nervous system, but you know it's actually more than that. So it's actually science out there that we are connected in that capacity. So just evidence that, you know, people even within your room, if you can maintain your alignment, you are affecting the energy of that person. But beyond that, because we are all connected, as you expand and work on your frequency, then you are actually assisting the whole collective consciousness. So we truly are connected.
Exciting. And it's so exciting for me, because I struggled with my abilities at the beginning because of fear of loss of love. Like, what is everybody going to think about me? Are they going to think I'm crazy? Are they going to think I'm a weirdo? And now that it's so much more accepted, I think we will see a lot more light workers stepping forward, because they'll have that confidence that they're not weird, they're not, you know, insane or whatever. It's truly a gift. And the other day I was listening to something, I can't remember what it was, but he was talking about how we are, as light workers, we're like a lighthouse. Like, here, we're showing you the direction. Here's a safe place. Come this way. You can come this way. It's safe. And I just loved that analogy, because it's like, yes, that's exactly it. We're showing others, way showers, that there is yes, you are safe. Come forth, you know. And I just thought that was such a wonderful way to express it, that it felt so comforting. And I think right now, especially, people are looking for comfort. And if they can find things like us and you on the YouTube, and it'll help everybody realize that, yeah, I can do this too.
And also as well, all the abilities that is released from you and activated within you is unique to you. Yes. So, you know, you're a channel, I'm a channel, there are many channels. They're all channeled differently, and they're all unique. Even if you channel the same being, is all unique because of your frequency. So there's no need to compare.
And I know comparing is a common thing because it's a human condition, and you know, a lot of people who have certain abilities, they may compare and they may use that as, you know, well, I'm not worthy to this, and because you know, like because of our belief systems, we often don't see ourselves as worthy of our abilities, or we may judge it as not wanted. We may judge it as, like you said, you might be worried about what people think. I know I went through this. I think all channels, all people who are, you know, in the light worker community, especially they're working within the spiritual realms of work, there is often, especially at the start, a doubt, you know. And what I really like about, well, what's happening at the moment is that I think it's freeing a lot of people to speak out, because you're not able to meet up with your friends and family. So there's, I guess, in that way, it kind of helps you in a way to put yourself more out there. I mean, it has to be obviously, you know, virtually, I guess, but because I guess you will be meeting up with a lot of people, so that can help ease that fear there. But it's part of our journey to speak our voice as well, you know. Yeah. Like I've had this as well, especially because I came from a counselling background. Imagine, you know, talking about psychosis and seeing things as part of a mental disorder. Can you imagine? And now I'm actually talking to angels, seeing angels. If that was in a psychology world, maybe I've got a psychosis or something. So can you see, like for instance, me, I was like, wow, like if I come out as a channel, people are going to maybe think in my community, in my field, wow, maybe she's going through her own psychosis or something like that. You know, of course, we all have these fears about what people are going to judge, you know, people are going to judge us, see this as something, you know, weird or unwanted. But like, for instance, with Reiki, like you do Reiki too, is that right?
Yeah, I'm Reiki master too. I do it on animals too. I do the Reiki,
that's
the grounding and Reiki,
Like, I mean, I was first aligned to Reiki in 2008. And I had a calling to do that. And that's also helped me with my sensitivities to do what I do now. And at that time in 2008, maybe not in America, because America is sometimes a bit more, I guess, they're more open to this kind of things, I guess, compared to a lot of places in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, well, in Australia anyway, in 2008, Reiki was still a bit woohoo. Like, it was a bit like, a lot of people didn't know what it was. People thought it was a bit weird. So to come out in the mainstream as Reiki, you're kind of seen as like this maybe woohoo person, you know, a bit crazy. But now it is just so common. Like so many people know about Reiki. It's not seen as like a woohoo thing. It's so that it just shows you that things that maybe seem a bit weird, you know, over time obviously becomes more acceptable in society. So I think, you know, during this time it appears that society is becoming more open to such abilities. I mean, like for instance, like being a medium, I guess people seem to be a lot more open to mediumship, because I guess you see like famous people like who are mediums and talking to, there's all the shows, and I guess it's more like well-known in society that you can talk to people who have transitioned, but where it's talking to angels or talking to aliens, talking to animals, maybe it's not as widespread in society, you know, so maybe there's still a bit of, you know, questions there of a lot of people, but it just shows you that it doesn't matter what aspect you connect to, that it's the non-physical. Yeah, you know?
And I think you talked about with Isabel how science is starting to catch up a little bit too, because now they're realizing that, with Reiki, we're moving energy. You can move energy, you know, it's like, and science is proving that now. So that, I think it's all, I'm just so excited because it's all just coming together. Nice.
Yeah, and like the quantum theories and things like that is actually proving now about energy and, you know, how it relates, you know, even like law of attraction, they're really understanding like how protons can be attracted, and it's just the sciences are catching up. But you have to understand, I know science is quite new, I guess, compared to these abilities that we've had for millennia, you know, since we came as human beings on Earth, we've always had abilities that we weren't as advanced as we are today, but so that the actual science that we see today, modern science, is quite new in comparison. So you can understand that's why they're not as caught up. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that meditation was seen as a bit woo-hoo, you know, in Western society, that is. You know what I mean? Like I remember like meditation, but like over the period of time, like or the last several years especially, even like in Australia, like counselors, psychologists, it's like a normal part of their practice, do a meditation. Whereas before was like, oh, it has to be evidence-based. But now they can actually prove the power of meditation with the electrodes, and I can see how it actually grows grey matter in the brain, how it helps with trauma, how it creates new pathways in the brain now, because science can prove it, and now it's not seen as woohoo anymore.
No.
So it's kind of like, it just shows that just because it's not, there's no evidence in science doesn't mean it doesn't work or doesn't exist, So
exactly.
That's just another example.
Yeah. It's all catching up. It's all coming together. I remember, gosh, back in the day, they called it biofeedback. It was basically meditation, but it was called biofeedback, just make it sound more medical, like a medical term, but same kind of thing, relaxing your body, thinking the energy to the specific part where you had the pain, and, like trying to remove the pain, and it's basically meditation. Yeah.
No, and in Western society, they've called it mindfulness.
Yes.
Because meditation might seem a bit woohoo, but mindfulness seems a bit more.
Mindfulness is acceptable. Yeah, that's an acceptable term. Yeah.
So it just shows, like, there's so many ways we can connect, and we truly are not alone. I mean, now what we're going through now, it is a great awakening, it is a great expansion event, but there is a lot of people in fear, a lot of people that feel like they're isolated in their own homes, especially. So just to know that you're always connected, even though you may not feel connected physically with other people, if you don't have a pet, then you can still connect, to the wind outside. There's always ways to connect to Gaia that really helps to assist you. We truly are never alone. It's just wonderful to hear stories and experiences such as yourself, how you have these abilities and you're helping other people, because I can imagine, like, many people that have pets, obviously they see those pets as a family member and they feel that connection, but to know that you can actually communicate with your pets, I'm sure that's very comforting to a lot of people.
It is, and that the pets are hearing you. They don't hear you like word for word, but they're hearing you. They're reading your vibration. They understand your emotions. It's just we don't give them enough credit. We really don't. Yeah.
And in saying that, Wendy, is there any any tips you might want to give us that maybe we can help connect to our pets or wild animals? Is there something that we can actually do? Any kind of methods that maybe, like you said, we can just ask them, but is there any, I don't know, any kind of meditation techniques or anything that Or?
Well, I would just say that if, it's not going to be a conversation. I don't hear like a series, a dialogue. I don't hear a dialogue. I get a knowing. I do, with more clairsentient type things where I feel it and understand it. So it's not like you're going to say to your dog, are you hungry? And you're going to hear a yes. It's not like that type of communication. But if you just sit quietly with your pet and ask a question, the first thing that pops into your head is usually the answer. And it helps, like, for instance, my dog's name is Wally. And so if I say Wally, Wally, Wally 3 times, I connect to him, because that's just like my like reminder, my mode to get into that meditative state is just to say the pet's name 3 times. So by saying Wally, 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 I intend to connect with Wally. I can sit with him and understand, get an answer, get it, what is it he needs. If an animal's not feeling well, same thing, you can sit with them and what is it? What do you need? And oftentimes they'll take on our emotions. If they'll take on an illness for you, like they feel your stress, they'll feel your emotions. So they'll take that on, trying to take it away from you and make their own body diseased versus seeing you diseased. So it's so complex yet simple if you can just quiet your mind and make that connection.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. And I'm sure that's a great comfort, especially for a lot of people now who are, isolating in their homes and they've got their animals there. And it's a good technique to practice and to, to give you that comfort and to help you to connect with all that is. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Wendy, thank you for being guest on the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. And Wendy, where can people find you?
Okay, I have a blog page. It's wendyandcompanychanneling.com. And then I also have two different Facebook pages. One is called Chat with the Animals, and it's primarily dedicated to all things with the animals. And then another web page, or Facebook page, called Attracting Well-Being. And that's more about living the law of attraction life, living this new approach to life. So either of those is great. And if you want to reach out to me, my email, the easiest email to remember is chatwiththeanimals@gmail.com. You can reach out to me and ask a question. Right now I'm offering free readings because, it feels like the right thing to do. So if you have questions about your animals, please send them.
Oh, that's wonderful, Wendy. I'm sure a lot of people will take you up on that.
I've had a lot of takers, yes.
Yeah. Wonderful. And for those of you who want to know more about me, jump on my website at beingsofthelight.com. I invite you to follow this podcast. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts and Podbean. You'll also find the videos on my YouTube channel. So check out my website with all the offerings that I offer there, and I invite you to join my Facebook community. So Beings of the Light with Kimberley community Facebook group. I've got a page, Instagram, but you can find it all there on the website. So thank you for joining us on this fun episode and bringing comfort to a lot of people who are connected to their animals.
Nice.
Until next time, friends, love and light to you all.
Bye-bye.
Farewell.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.